Namaste and welcome to On the Path with Yogi Krish. Today we are going to talk about one of the least understood and most misunderstood spiritual practice. It is Tantra. Now, why do I say that? Because there are two misconceptions which are widely prevalent about Tantra. The first one is that it is a highly occult service or a practice, and that it deals with dark forces. Nothing can be far from truth. The second one is that Tantra somehow is a very sexual practice, and that much of it deals with sexual or tantric practices. Again, not true. And that idea is widely prevalent because a British person called Pierre Bernard, somewhere in the 18th or 19th century, took this concept to the West, and without really understanding its core practice, he kind of sold it or took it there as a very sexual practice. We will delve deeper into these two elements as we go through this video. But let's start with what exactly is Tantra. Tantra comes from two words from Sanskrit. The first word is tan. Tan essentially means a loom. It means to compose. It means to weave. So whenever we talk of Tantra, the practitioner of Tantra, who is called a tantric, is free to weave and compose a form of practice that brings him closer to God. And what is Tantra? Tra, the word Sanskrit, tra, it means liberation. So the practice or the composition or the weaving that the tantric does eventually leads him to be in union with God. It's supposed to liberate him from this earthly existence so that his consciousness and the cosmic consciousness unite and become one. So that's the meaning of Tantra. The practitioners of Tantra are called tantrics, and each tantric has no boundaries and is free to practice and pursue a path which he identifies with in his own spiritual journey. So there are no broad textual practice guidelines, rules that guide this practice of Tantra. The individual is completely free to pursue this practice in whichever form and shape that he chooses to. Now, Tantra has existed for thousands of years, long before the Common Era. And it has heavily influenced a lot of branches and other religions too. Most common among them is Buddhism, Jainism. It has influenced Tibetan Bon. It has influenced Shintoism, Taoism. So, in some form or in some shape, this practice is prevalent across a wide variety of religions. Now, there are some common threads when it comes to Tantra. And across all these practices, some of these common threads are that a tantric or a tantra will worship either Shiva, Vishnu, or the goddess Shakti. Most often, and in current contemporary times, Tantricism is associated with Kali. Kali is an extremely misunderstood deity because of the image that she has been portrayed with. But there is a far more deeper and significant understanding of what Kali is, or what the goddess Durga and Kali is, or what Shakti is. So there are elements and streams of Tantra that have originated from Shiva, from Vishnu, and from Shakti. And they are all widely prevalent in different parts of the world. The second common thread in Tantra is the Guru and Shishya relationship. That is the teacher and the disciple relationship. That is an extremely powerful bond, and most often practitioners of Tantra will have a guru, and they will get Shaktipat, or a transfer of energy, or a mantra, or a physical object called yantra from guru to the disciple. And that tradition is followed. It is called Guru Mantra or Diksha. And it is an extremely important part because it is an extremely sacred bond between a guru and his disciple. It's a very personal bond of the highest spiritual order. The third common element in Tantra is Kundalini awakening practice. Shakti is considered to be in our physical body in the form of a coiled snake at the base of our spine. This is called Kundalini. And awakening this Shakti and powering it up through your body and through your chakras, untying every knot and helping it to ascend all the way up to the crown and beyond, so that your own consciousness unites with the cosmic consciousness, is a part of this practice. It is often called Kundalini Yoga, and it is widely prevalent and practiced, but at its core, this is essentially a tantric practice. A few more elements. Almost all the tantric practitioners will practice mantra, japa. They will have some physical objects or yantra that are powerful enough and which they will use and pray. There are some form of tantra and tantric practices that are extreme, and the most well-known among these extreme practices are the aghoris. The aghoris are ones that are worshippers and devotees of Shiva, and they smear ashes and they live in cemeteries and what in Hinduism we call the place where the funeral pyre is burnt, called shamshans. They consume alcohol, all forms of meat. Some even say that the practitioners consume human meat. To what extent that is true, I doubt. But anyway, this is something which is again widely prevalent, held belief that they do. And again, it is their choice. There are no boundaries and limitations as long as it's done within a legal framework. So what exactly is not Tantra? That is also important. So let's go to the 2 points that I mentioned before. The first one is occult. Tantric practitioners are elevated souls and extremely powerful individuals. When we talk of elevated souls, by default, the understanding should be that they are the light and they fight dark forces, dark entities, dark energies, and they help remove darkness. But there are always bad apples, and there are people who, in their pursuit of fame and money, can go and cross any boundaries. So they have, in a way, smeared the name of Tantra, but at its core, Tantra is all about doing good to others as much as possible, spreading goodness and fighting darkness. The second element of Tantra, which is usually misunderstood, is the practice of tantric sex. The entire practice of tantric sex is extremely sacred, and it forms a small part of Tantra. It involves the union of Shakti, which is divine feminine, and Shiva, who is divine masculine. And it forms a union which is so sacred and which is so powerful that it forms the core of the creative force of life itself. It's an extremely sacred practice, and it involves huge amount of respect, love, bonding, intimacy. And physical intimacy. Now, when this practice is undertaken, it essentially means that the union of the male and the female, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, Shiva and Shakti, they come together, and one reaches realms of spiritual planes that are not normally possible to do so. So it's a form of ascension which eventually leads one to experience the bliss of the divine. That is what Tantra is all about. So I hope you have enjoyed this short video, and if you have any comments, then do write to me. I'll be more than willing to respond to them. And if you like it, do subscribe to my channel and do share. And I'm always available to interact on these topics and these issues. Last but not the least, I dedicate this video to my own guru, who was a tantric. He is no longer here, but his grace and his guiding force is forever going to be with me.